Good afternoon, Aaron. Thanks very much for joining us today on People and Work. My first question to you is, what do you like about your work?
Good question. There's lots that I like my work. I work in sustainability, and in sustainability, generally, I found in my experience, you have to be a little bit of everything. You have to be sometimes you're crunching numbers, sometimes I'm writing comms campaigns, sometimes I'm writing policy, sometimes I'm just kind of pulling my hair out a little too literally probably, but what I love about sustainability is it's just so varied, and that really suits my personality. I'm quite a kind of jack of all trades, master of none, really. So working in a field where I get to be a little bit creative, sometimes get to hide away and do some writing, it really suits me. What's been great about my opportunities to do that so far is it's, sometimes I'm buried in a spreadsheet and don't come out my room or my office or wherever I'm working for a couple of weeks. And other times I'm literally meeting the future King of England to talk about the opportunity to bring sustainability into the mainstream content. So it's a really broad, for me, it's been incredibly rewarding, and has taken me in kind of all directions. And it's really that variety that I find most enjoyable, because no 2 days are the same, and that's something that just kind of suits me.
Your specific sort of subcategory within sustainability is within broadcast media production.
Yeah, that's right. So I specialize in helping corporations and any kind of organization really respond to the climate challenge and progress with meaningful change. I spent the last 10 years working in film and TV, and that's primarily had kind of two principal angles to it. The first is obviously how we reduce our industry's impact. We take a lot of flights, we use generators, we build sets, all that kind of stuff. So that was kind of the first chunk of work that I did. But then increasingly recently, moving on to storytelling, because this is really the power of storytellers. At this moment in time, this kind of critical climate, the decisive decade we're in, as they call it. So my work has all been about helping creatives understand how they can have a voice in sustainability and kind of pull sustainability out of this really factual niche where it's been living, and make it a kind of cultural norm through drama, entertainment, and comedy. So at the moment, I'm doing that for an organisation called All Three Media, who you might have heard of, you might not have. Maybe you've seen a little logo at the end of some of the credits, but they're a holding company of 45 different production companies, and they make everything from Call the Midwife to Gogglebox. So a huge variety of types of content within our group. And before that, I had a short time at Netflix, worked at the BBC, Warner Brothers, and BAFTA as well.
Well, then let's move on to my second question. How did you start out in the industry?
In sustainability, I got a degree, which I probably wouldn't do again, okay. in geography, physical geography, and a little bit of ecology as well. And I was just looking at jobs boards for what was around, and my first kind of proper job. No, actually, I'm going to scrap that. But my first proper job was a lifeguard, but that's irrelevant. My first job in this kind of area of work of sustainability and climate change was working for a local record centre. So nature enthusiasts often go out and they document animals and plants that they've seen as a hobby, and that's not always just a hobby. Sometimes those notes come back to centres which log observations. So all over the UK, there's a bank of observations in local record centres for nature. And that means that if you're going to build a railway or you're going to build some homes, you have to check in with the local record centre and see who's seen what in that local area. So you can't, build a housing estate on top of, water bowls, for example. So my first job was working in one of those centers, processing that data. And then when we got a request to say we want to build something here, we'd kind of use something called GIS, geographic information systems, which kind of plot these data points of there was a woodpecker here, or there was a, there was a mouse here in 1976 or whatever, and kind of feed that information back to whoever was putting in the request in, whether that was a housing firm or the local authority. Yeah. So that was my first job in this field.
Excellent. And what would you say to someone looking to start out today?
I see quite a lot on LinkedIn and stuff, people saying have a really clear plan about what you want to do. And I think that advice is great. But for me, I had no idea, what I wanted to do. I still don't know what I want to do. My dad's 70, he still doesn't know what he wants to do. So I think the whole notion of like having a plan is kind of fundamentally flawed, unless you've got a very clear idea of what you want to do. And that's fine. But I think most people don't really. And I'm a big advocate for just getting a job, whatever it is. But, I worked in bars and kind of made my way up to assistant manager, and I worked as a lifeguard. All those things were kind of, I did throughout, A-levels and school. And they just make your CV stand out more than someone who hasn't. But more than that, they give you experience, whether it's useful or not. It just helps you kind of contextualize yourself and understand yourself a little bit more. Like, oh, do I like doing this? Do I not doing that? For me, I'm only someone who can kind of figure that out by trial and error. So kind of getting stuck in with a job, even if it tells you, the stuff you don't want to do, I think is a pretty solid place to start.
Yeah, I think the idea of sort of, stepping stones, you move from one to the other, and try and move forward in some sort of direction.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. That's the approach I've taken myself. And I think especially for people who don't know what they want to do, kind of is the most sensible approach.